Hello, I'm Richard Raffan. In this video you're going to see me turn this block of what I think is black heart sassafras, Tasmanian sassafras. It did not like being drilled out when I drilled a recess for the chuck so I could mount it initially. Now what I have in mind here is a squarish bowl, square bowl, and we'll see how we go. I have no idea what the wood has in mind, has in store. It's a pretty old piece. I know it to be at least 10 years old, and probably a bit older than that. See how we go. So this block has been waxed all over, so it's difficult to see exactly what's happening underneath. I did spot a little split somewhere. Can't find it now. Anyway, this is going over these shark jaws. And just take the corner off first. I'm going to keep the top edges square for the moment. Now, as usual, I'm going to rough down with a 1/2 inch spindle gouge. Let's get some of the wax off to see what's happening. So it doesn't look too bad. No. Good. Now I really need to flatten off the top face just to give me a better idea of my squareness when I get round to it. Make sure all the squares are square. Right, so there's a small split I can spot here going down to there. And I'll probably lose that when I do the final shaping. This is the more, this is not an absolutely square blank. This corner projects a bit more, so that's probably going to be okay. And I'll mark where it is on the wax down towards the centre, down towards the chuck. Right, using the right wing here. Using the right wing ready to shear scrape. All I want is to have that corner trued up, which it is. So what I'm concentrating on here is the upper horizon, the shape, so that's going to look quite good, I think. Right, so I've established that bit of a curve. Now I'm going to work from the bottom and combine the two together. the moment all I'm interested in doing is establishing the overall proportions. And now I'd like to find a chuck which is just about the size of that foot. So what I do in this case is to set the divisor to the size of the foot and then look for a chuck. Pretty near is the 60mm chuck, so I'm going to use this. Comes down a little bit in, the foot comes down a little bit in diameter. Establish that diameter, the cylinder. Through bowl guard, it's not a very good cut, a bit ridgy, so I'm going to try scraping that. That's okay. Not a very good cut up in there. Now I'm going to shear scrape this tool up on edge. Using the lower half of the edge. That feels a little flat just there, so just rehone the edge. Still hasn't come that clean, but that will sand. It's still just not cutting, so right, so that was me off to the grinder. And that is the difference. And that still hasn't cut cleanly, so that just will get sanded down on the bottom. Just squeezing the tool across. Use a corner in for a bit of decoration. And what shape do I want this foot? And just go dovetail it in very slightly. Important thing with the chucks is that they need to be able to sit up into a corner or into a groove. That'll be fine. The wings here, You could do it with a block and sand by hand. It's easier to do it with power, which is what I'm going to do. This is 180 grit. Up across the top and use a block. A few little micro cracks there. That's beginning to show up a bit as picked up grain, so that needs to get sanded. Should have picked that up before. Gone. 180. Beeswax. So while it's still hot, the wax, you can get it up onto the wings. That is a bit too close. It shuts the jaws right down, so I need a bit of cloth just to pad it out a bit. So the square is diminished somewhat. The sides will probably eventually come into about there. There's a split there which I can see on the outside, and that's where I marked it. So that's the only kind of issue, but I think I can get away with that if I leave this bowl around that thick. That should be, I hope, all right. Right, so go in just short of that one. I think that's pretty well where I need to start, and I can go out just a little bit more. Bit of a whipping sound in there. Is usually grain picking up, which in this case is just here. It's a minor version of that. Which you hope will be removed with a nice shear cut. Yes, no, still picked up there. It's down to about the right kind of thickness there. Feels like about just over 1/4 of an inch. Which it is, just over 1/4 of an inch. In sensible measurements, it's 7 millimeters. So that has picked up quite a bit. Quickest way to deal with it is power sanding. I'm going to start with 120. That's just taking the edge off the abrasive. Now before I do any final sanding, I'm going to shape the outsides, shape the sides. So going to be a few pencil marks here. So that's really where the sides, this side is going to end up, and I need some other marks up here. This is actually a bit more symmetrical than I thought. I also need to know where centre is. A little white dot in the middle. Now I need some lines, right angles to each other, so I can establish exactly where the corners are going to be. Well, this now is a 5-inch chuck roughly, and This is 60 grit, and I've got this block to support my hand. Probably what I want to do is to get down to the bottom of this curve. I then need to assess what this looks like from the side. And at the moment it's not symmetrical, but that doesn't actually worry me, because often these things have a little more energy if they're just slightly off. I think I can live with that, and so it now goes back onto the lathe to finish the sanding. Now, the sad thing is we've lost most of that grain, which often happens. However, in the long run that will all blend in, and you won't have the big contrast anyway, so long term it's not an issue. 180 grit. I don't have any 320 grit, but I do have 400. And it is 115 by 13, so it's ended up slightly rectangular. Not slightly, it is rectangular, just not a very long rectangle. Get some wax off there.